Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to look at Overly Sarcastic Productions' History Summarized Pope Fights, the very first in the series of I don't know how many. I haven't seen anything from Blue. I've seen his input into some of Red's videos, specifically, I think only in Journey to the West, and if he's been in some of the other Halloween ones I've checked out, neat. But more importantly, I want to jump in here and just see what his take on this is, how this is going, because everything about Pope Fights was really heavily recommended. I'm kind of curious to see how this goes, because I enjoy fun shit, and Overly Sarcastic Productions does a lot of said fun shit. I know, crazy that. Otherwise, you guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video, hit it up. And if you happen to know a good master playlist for all of the Pope Fight series, because I, again, don't know how many there are, let me know, because I would like to find out. Thanks. Let's get started.
When you look at a pope like our boy Francis, you might reasonably think that being a good person is a prerequisite for being the holiest guy in Christendom.
Dude, I'm Catholic. That ain't the case. I know that ain't the case. And he's working from the premise that that isn't something people would be aware of. Oh, we're going down that rabbit hole. I thought it was going to be, I don't know what it was going to be. It was Pope Fights, man. I had no idea. And apparently we're starting from, it looks so good. As soon as you say, this is what it looks like, you know we're talking about all the horrible shit. So we're going full on Medici, aren't we?
You might imagine that the Pontifex Maximus would never be the type of person to leverage their divine responsibility for such earthly trifles as material gain or political expediency.
Don't look up World War II.
I say
there was a few things.
Have clearly never seen a good old-fashioned Pope fight. Pope fight? Yes.
They actually just dropped the word in?
So, for the next 9 minutes, allow me to take you back in time, to a simpler time, when the Western Roman Empire had disintegrated and the land around the city of Rome itself was governed by the only guy in town who had any semblance of power. The Pope. For over 1,000 years, the papal states ruled over—
Ain't no authority like spiritual temporal authority, because spiritual temporal authority means I have control over literally everything. Woo! Yeah, because Rome fell, and I'm not sure if the Holy Roman Empire that came after it, that eventually fell and was incredibly weak, was around at this point. On the other hand, it was so incredibly weak, it might not count as far as I know. I don't know this part of history very well.
The center of Italy while overseeing the religious life of all of Europe.
They went to 1870?
Pope is almost solely a spiritual leader. The medieval popes were functionally kings.
Jesus, eternal life, yada yada. Now buy more indulgences. Oh yeah, indulgences were a thing where you could pay in advance to be forgiven for sins. Of course, that wasn't legally binding, just biblically binding. I think that was the entire point of Lutheranism, and Luther nailing things to the door was literally saying, this is corruption! And then the people who liked it not agree with him. Yeah.
And boy, did they act like it. With the stage set, let's go down to the ring for tonight's first Pope fight!
He's actually setting this up as a wrestling match?
He's lean, he's mean, he's 20 years old and became Pope through bribery and nepotism. It's Benedict IX! And in the other corner we have— wait a minute. Why are there 3 popes here? Who approved this schedule? You know what? Okay, whatever. So, Benedict here didn't actually care about doing all of that complicated Jesus stuff, and he used the office to—
I've been drinking wine and eating from this gigantic case of Vanilla wafers. Oh, vanilla wafers. He's shorting it because he's a man-child. That's why they have it drawn this way. For 3 days straight, and for some reason, the Cardinals are all mad at me now. Oh my god, he literally ate the communion. Oh, the fact that the Cardinals didn't commit a few sins on him is actually surprising at that point.
Enrich his already monstrously wealthy family. 8 years later, and the Cardinals decided that they didn't want a greedy toddler for a leader, and they got him out of office
Hey, they actually did. Those weren't for stacking, you incompetent dunce!
Same way that he got in.
Bribery and murder?
A priest named Giovanni, and they got him out of office the same way that he got in. Bribery. A priest named
nope, just bribery. I was expecting murder as well.
Giovanni fought gangster with gangster and made Benedict an offer that he couldn't refuse. Basically, Benedict sold the papacy, and Giovanni became Pope Sylvester III.
I'm not sure which is more insulting, that Italian accent, or the fact that it wouldn't be an accent in Italy, it would just be speaking.
Okay, so that's a pretty sacrilegious thing to do, but at least we're done, right?
Oh, no.
No. Time for round 2. So, 3 brief months later, Benedict decided that he wanted to be Pope again because he had so much fun defrauding the people of Rome the first time. So he marched an army into the city and declared—
He marched an army in. Oh my god. It's actually a fight. This isn't just him doing a reference to a boxing match. It's actually a fight. At the speed news travels this century, parts of Europe don't even know you left yet. Yeah.
Himself as Pope again. But then, just a month after he handed the cardinals a fresh new succession crisis, Benedict decided that he wanted out, again, so he could get married.
He wanted out twice! Okay. I'd say first world problems and leave it at that, but now that I think about it, I want to get married. That's a long-term goal I can commit to. I doubt that.
His godfather became Pope Gregory VI, and that's it? No? Okay, round
Sweet
3.
biz.
It seems
And
like
he died.
beating dead horses was another one of Benedict's hobbies in addition to wholesale
Again?
corruption. So, Benedict's wife-to-be noped right on out of there, and he decided that he wanted to be Pope again. Meanwhile,
Wait, she noped out. I mean, yes, man-child, makes sense, but she noped out. How horrible do you have to be? Never mind, I just realized we're talking about essentially nobles in a time period where there was no other higher law than them. I know exactly how horrible that could get. Actually, yeah, my girlfriend told me that when she left. Anyway, Pope me, please. Third time's the charm.
poor Sylvester is still out there sulking in the hills, so there are 3 people claiming to be Pope at once. To settle the matter, the Holy Roman Emperor, that is to say the German Emperor, rode into town.
Okay, so the Holy Roman Empire is still a thing right now. It's just that very weak version that nobody actually listened to in its own boundaries.
And held a council, where he found Sylvester to have no legitimate claim, Benedict to not even slightly be worthy of being Pope, and Gregory guilty of simony. All 3.
I mean, on the one hand, he made the right call. Specifically about Benedict. Honestly, the other 2, I have no idea. But I'm assuming, thought right now, that Benedict's going to come back in with a bunch of the army again, huh?
3 were tossed out, and a German bishop became Pope Clement II. But wait, there's
Please don't
more.
die.
A year later, Clement II died, and who else but Benedict came strolling back to the Vatican for...
Is that the 4th time, or did he not get the 3rd time back? 3rd or 4th? I don't... Oh my god. No, he claimed, alright, so technically this would be the 4th time! How has he not been assassinated? I'm assuring the guy previously, he just had an accident and fell out of a window. It was open. No Russians were there to push him. That would never happen. I mean, at this time, I don't think windows would exist. But details, you know the metaphor. Very, very loose one that nobody would get, I'm certain of. For YouTube reasons, I'm going to agree with that statement that I just made. That would be weird if I didn't agree with myself on. Glad we had this talk.
For term number 3. 6 months
Okay, this was the third one
however,
then?
the Holy Roman Emperor had just about had enough of the antics, so he swiftly excommunicated and exiled Benedict for good. One cardinal called him a demon.
Wait, did he just Yeah, no, he excommunicated, I cannot speak today, excommunicated the Pope. I mean, I have an army is usually a good defense, but does he? Does he really? Hey, Byzantines, you didn't by any chance see that whole miss transpired, did you? Nah.
Demon from hell in disguise as a priest, which is pretty hardcore, especially for a priest. But honestly, to me, the most shocking part is that he didn't try for a 4th time. Benedict definitely qualifies as a...
Wait, he's still alive? How powerful was his family? Was his last name Medici? That would actually explain a lot. But also, usually they're more competent evil. In the sense that they make sure not to leave loose ends. Including own family sometimes.
A meme pope. Words I never imagined saying back to back. Given this colossal mess...
Hey, look, it's been swell, but you guys clearly have a lot to sort out. We're going to just do our own thing over here.
It might be little surprise that the Greek Orthodox Church of the Byzantine Empire broke off from Catholicism for good just 6 years later. Well, there you have it, folks. The final score...
Oh, that was before the split. Oh, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. Blatant incompetency, corruption, and a meme pope. Yeah, honestly, that is so over the top. I completely get why someone would suddenly say, like, hey, you know how you did that shit for multiple years? 3 times is too much. But 4? Nope. Different religion now.
Score for our first Pope fight is Benedict 3, sticking to a decision for more than 20 minutes, 0. Okay, but now we're done. right?
No.
Oh boy, check the timestamp, kiddo. We're just getting started over here.
That was the first example. You know, it just occurred to me, I have no idea how many popes there have been. But they quoted roughly over 1,000 years. So they have a lot of time to pull from. And this guy apparently had multiple encounters with that seat. Or I guess the Holy See instead of seat. Whatever, details. Who's going to top this? I'm only saying that because I know I'm about to find out, because I don't think there's any way I can jinx it. This is a series. Oh god, it's not even that it's going to be jinxed. It's that this is probably the low water mark. Sorry, just that little moment of realization that this is the low water mark where everything probably gets crazier from. I'd say, oh god, but that seems a little too on the fancy robes at this point.
So, let's move on to our next Pope fight this evening, and there's no one here. Well, see, to avoid the bribes, murders, and nepotism that had plagued the papacy for a few centuries in general,
Only
and
a few?
the past few years in particular, they developed what we now know as the Papal Conclave.
Oh, that's how that started?
Elected by secret ballot to ensure a peaceful transition of divine authority.
Voting? What millennium do you think this is? We're more than one metric Jesus away from the last vote. Last time anyone you voted for anything. Yeah, because technically there was voting in Rome before it became an empire. So yeah. Metric Jesus. Does that imply there's an English Jesus? You know what? No. King James Bible. There actually is an English Jesus. Never mind. I guess we can't be worse than Benedict IX. Might as well.
Through what in theory would be a just and capable line of popes. So this worked out pretty well for a couple centuries,
Really?
but in 1292, two warring factions of cardinals drew out the conclave from the usual couple weeks to 2 entire years.
Whoa.
For 2 years, the Papal States were without its ruler and Rome was a mess. In the confusion, a hermit monk wrote to the conclave, warning the cardinals that the almighty hand of God would dope smack the eternal salvation out of them if they kept screwing around all decade long. And as it happened, the cardinals were so impressed that they elected him pope, marking...
Seriously? Seriously? Someone wrote an angry letter to a bunch of powerful people in a time period where they were the ultimate power. I'm still ignoring the entire Holy Roman Emperor at this point. Even though he took out the last guy, it didn't stick once. So, yeah, no. Also, this is probably the only time I've heard anyone talk about on the internet. An angry letter, literally an angry comment, got people to change their minds. That sounds so weird.
Possibly the only instance in which anyone was hired by telling their interviewers to go to hell. I mean, hey, if it works, it works. So this monk becomes Pope Celestine V, and he proceeds to do... nothing. Yeah, honestly, he was kind of a stooge. The only thing he ever really did in his first 5 months was help out the French allied King of Naples by appointing his mooks to church positions.
Oh, why aren't they helping them? Yo, thanks for disproportionately increasing our influence in the church. The fuck?
Oh yeah, did I say first 5 months? I meant only 5 months. When it became unavoidably clear that the ascetic monk that had no relevant experience in running a complex bureaucracy wasn't good at his job, he went to the cardinals. And they said, "What is your first decree?" And he said, "I want to be allowed to quit."
He realized he wasn't good at running an administration and decided he would find a better replacement and then asked to be replaced. Frankly, this guy should have been given lessons to stay in power because that is a godsend right there. I mean, yeah, he probably fucked a lot of things up, but on the other hand, he realized his own shortcomings and acted on it. Like, all joking aside, that is so incredibly rare. It's like saying common sense is the most uncommon superpower. No, that's not a joke. That's a literal statement of fact. No one has it. It's complete myth. People just like to believe otherwise. And then they do stupid shit to prove it's not the case. Damn, that's actually impressive.
All right, what's your second decree? I quit. Honestly, it makes sense. He never even wanted to be pope in the first place.
Yeah.
He just wanted somebody to be pope to end the deadlock. But be careful what you wish for, because Boniface VIII became the next pope, and he wasted absolutely no time throwing Celestine in jail. Reason being that no one had ever voluntarily abdicated the papacy like that.
And then not come back, so yeah. On the other hand, if he's an aesthetic monk, unless I'm very much misremembering what those are, which is entirely possible, and maybe the word changed, that kind of spiritual emptiness, not spiritual emptiness, aestheticism, might actually work if, you know, it's more about the meditation and just solitary reflection upon your vows. I'm not sure if that was a thing they did at this time, though, because, frankly, I was just surprised the guy would be willing to quit.
Before, and Boniface had reason to believe that someone or another would challenge his authority and try to install Celestine back in as an anti-pope to oppose him. So the obvious solution was to cut out the middleman and just toss Celestine in prison. Boniface then proceeded to undo all 0 of Celestine's actions. He mainly just cleared away his appointees and left only the very small clause about popes being able to retire. Whether Celestine died—
So the only thing that he actually did stuck around that mattered? Huh. And this is 4 years ago. This is probably right around when, Benedict came in right after the previous pope before him, who I do not remember, and that guy stepped down. So this is actually relevant. Right, good work. Next order of business. Someone get that hack Dante from Florence to stop saying I'm going to burn in hell upside down. Really hurt my feelings. And, oh, this is during Dante's time? Oh, yeah, we're going into major corruption, aren't we?
Of straight-up murder, or just the fact that he was 81 years old and in prison, Boniface basically sentenced Celestine to death. Although honestly, when faced with the choice of being dead versus being pope, I'm pretty sure Celestine got what he would have preferred.
Yeah?
Being pope is work. And at the end of the round, its responsibilities: 1, wanting to just go home and take a nap; 0. But who's this entering from the north? It's King Philip IV of France, and he's not happy, folks.
Because the previous pope was, due to not being good at his job, giving him a lot of sway and power, which ideally made him actually do the entire, hey, let's play along with this. I think they were religious at the time point, but I'm not sure if it was this religion or a different variation or whatnot. Again, I just kind of have it rubbed in my face. I don't know what's going on at this time period. And the entire idea about how Celestine would be used as a anti-pope against him, said reason to believe that is probably about to come out and do something.
In fact, Boniface and Philip—
Je suis the King of France, you minuscule plebeian. Excuse for a roulade. Yes, that is my French accent, and sadly, it is one of my better ones. Yes, that counts as better. I'm so sorry.
Philip feuded privately and publicly for years. At one point, Boniface wrote him a letter that literally opens with "Listen, son," which is the respectful papal way.
Checazo, did you just hecking say about me, you little putana? I'll have you know I got to the top of my class at the papal army. I've been involved in numerous secret since. Oh my god, they actually put in the freaking copy pasta. They put in the seal copy pasta. Oh my god, I haven't seen this in years, and honestly, I don't miss it in the slightest. It was annoying, and everyone who put it down, I just thought it was a giant pile of, well, Reddit, and that's honestly what really needs to be said there. But they put it in there, and they changed it to fit the time period. Oh my god.
Way to say, alright, looky here, dumbass, you're way out of your league, and if you don't shape up real soon, I'm gonna excommunicate your sinful ass so hard you'll wish I only imprisoned and maybe murdered you. So anyway, Philip IV carried on exactly as he had before, and when Boniface prepared an order of excommunication against the king, he—
I'm sure this would go over well with the German. I actually never know. He probably would love that, but would have absolutely no power to enforce because, again, they're very weak. Although I'm not sure if they were weak at this point yet. I know a lot of their history was entirely weak. All right, that does it. That'll be the one eternal damnation. Extra Scorpions with a side of Barbie Girl theme song on repeat forever. Okay, wow, Blue, that is dark, man. What the fuck?
Sent French thugs to assault him, the Pope, in his own hometown, and he died within 2 weeks. Philip ordered a hit on the Pope. The gall! Pope murderer Philip then manipulated the papal conclave to elect Clement V as the new pro-France Pope.
I mean, usually being told do what I want or die is a good way to manipulate people, especially if you had since murdered the previous person who did not agree with that.
At the end of the second period, that's French king who's way outside of their lane, 1, Murder Pope Zero. And speaking of, that brings us to our sponsor for today's video.
Pope-a-cola. With over a dozen names. Share a Pope. Oh my, they just... I thought this was an actual ad read for a second. Oh my god.
Pope Zero. Same divine taste, 0 calories. Now back to the fight. It's after Clement steps into the Pope fight that things get even weirder. Philip, still high on his victory and ballsier than...
I'm sorry. Even weirder. Everything prior to this was normal. Actually, yeah, no, it was just bullshitting and random bouts of massive corruption from an indecisive asshole who had way more money than sense and probably a rich family. Yeah, that counts.
Ever decided to test his luck and yoinked the entire papacy itself out of Rome, out of Italy even, and moved it into Avignon, France, starting with...
Oh, and this is where a lot of the rumors that all of the entire Jesus' family lives in France came from. Oh, neat. Yeah, that's a thing, by the way. It's actually, I'm pretty sure what... Was it Angels and Demons from... No, the Da Vinci Code from Dan Brown. Yep, that's the one. It's entirely based on these old conspiracy theories, and they're pretty old at this point, considering 700-ish years? Yeah, about 700 years. Granted, they still stick around and people still believe them, so they have staying power.
With Clement, the Catholic Church operated in France under the authority of the French king for 68 years. Mind you, that whole time, the literal papal states were popeless. After almost one metric human lifetime of lavish...
So the papal states weren't papal? How did they run? Was it like by letter, or did they just kind of do their own shit? Huh. Guys, I really don't feel good about what we're doing here. This isn't priestly at all. You are in the Catholic Church, sir. What do you think you're doing?
Lavish living in the pocket of the French crown, Pope Urban V and his successor Gregory XI fought bitterly against the College of Cardinals to restore the papacy to Rome. The Cardinals at this point had nicely settled into eating 10-course meals while everyone else in Europe...
Is this how cardinals start being sent to every church? Not every church, but every location, so that they probably did actually start that tradition now because they just didn't want to leave the lap of luxury. Oh my god. Oh, boo-hoo. Where's the fun in that? Now excuse us. It's time for our 4-hour dinner. You know, depending on how I feel on any specific day, that could be absolute torture or an absolute amazing idea that I would absolutely love. Absolutely even. Huh.
Europe was actively dying of plague, because that's a thing now, not that they would have known that being cooped up in the purpose-built palace of Avignon all century. But anyway, that's okay now, because Gregory moved the papacy back to Rome, and even though it's definitely worse for wear after 70 years of functionally no government, the church set about restoration projects.
After 70 years of neglect and only 30 years since the plague first hit, 30 years of the plague, wow. Rome was at its lowest population since the Punic Wars. It was really only after the papacy came back and the myriad restoration projects started happening that Rome regained its grandeur and began to take the artful Renaissance form that we see today. Oh, wow. This is the time period where they really codified Rome as we know it now? Huh. I mean, those projects definitely held up to time, better than I expected.
To fix stuff. Now that was all well and good, but Gregory's successor, Urban VI, turned out to be, well, kind of insane. As soon as he became Pope, he
Oh god, he's an Urban. Sorry, I'm a Battletech fan. I hear Urban, I'm like, oh no, it's an Urby! Run for your life! The worst part is that's probably a good example. We're going to play a fun game called Agree With Me or Rot in Prison. It's my favorite game. Oh. We're going back to the traditional sense of being in charge. Got it.
Started locking up his opponents. You know, like a fascist. This was awkward.
There's a joke about Italians in general there, but I won't make it because I have, I was going to say standards, but we all know that would be a lie.
Because most of the cardinals were still French, so the obvious strategy for the half of the church leadership that didn't like Urban for obvious reasons was just to run off to France and elect Clement VII as their pope. Their argument was that the new Roman popes were an illegitimate offshoot of their rightful Avignon line. The Roman cardinals believed that independent of Urban VI's personal qualities, he was the rightfully selected pope. And at the end of round 4, our score is real Pope 1, faux Pope 1, but in French. So we've...
And honestly, the faux pope sounds like a better choice. But on the other hand, Would that be an expensive French knockoff? Tell me in the comments if you think that's a good way to put that, or if I just insulted a whole bunch of people. Actually, never mind. I'd be disappointed if I didn't insult someone.
We've had popes retire to make way for new popes. We've had former popes contesting with current popes. We've even had murder popes and pope murderers. But now, Christianity saw two entirely separate papacies in Italy and France, each believing that the other was a one-stop shop for every lawless heretic on earth.
So basically normal, except this time it's between France and Italy instead of France and England.
At this point, St. Peter's probably thinking, guys, what the hell? But Jesus is just omnisciently snacking on popcorn, loving every single minute of the drama.
Yeah.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is no ordinary pope fight. No, no, no. This was a full-on pope war.
Oh, they actually warred?
Two entire papacies competed for nearly 40 years, branding the other as anti-popes. Needless to say, it didn't reflect especially well on the church when a pope is condemned as a heretic by a different pope. This went on for a while, and neither side budged, as you can imagine, but finally, cardinals from both sides met in an attempt to reconcile and succeeded in electing another anti-pope. I lost count of the rounds of this pope fight.
I'm sorry, there's a third anti-pope. So the guy whose job is it rightfully is incompetent and crazy. The less crazy people got the fuck out and went to the place that was definitely legitimate, not corrupt. Because French monarchy, and that's all I'm going to say about that. And then they decide, you know what? 40 years later, they all got together and did another one without replacing any of the other two. It's like, why? Is this the German variant? You know what? Actually, that probably is what happens.
A while ago, but this is honestly getting ridiculous. The mess
now is getting ridiculous.
Concluded at the 4-year-long Council of Constance, where the second anti-pope was deposed, the Avignon anti-pope had his claim dismissed, the Roman actual pope resigned, and a new pope, Martin V, was elected by the...
Wait, they got the original guy to resign? How? Probably violence. Probably a lot of threats of violence. There's a lot of hammers in here. That makes a lot of sense now.
Combined council, and now we're done. Well, there were a few anti-popes tooling around for another couple decades, but nobody cared and it wasn't a problem. As far as European Christians were concerned, the seat of the church was permanently re-established in Rome, and all of the popes between then and 2013 served for life, the way God intended. That was the year Benedict XVI became the first pope in almost 600 years to voluntarily resign, and thankfully he did so without an accompanying pope fight. And let's take one last look at the scoreboard, folks. At the end of the fifth and final round for the evening, it's lasting dignity of the medieval Catholic Church, -7. That's one for each succession crisis. And
I don't know here. Meme capacity? Sure. Lasting dignity? Only -7. I think there's a bunch of little boys who would disagree with that.
Meme capacity of the medieval Catholic Church, maximal. Whew, that's gotta hurt. All told, though the fighting did stop, papal mischief in general continued in various forms for another century. Between the moral depravity of the Borgia Pope Alexander VI, the Medici murder conspiracy abetting Pope Sixtus...
See, these are the guys who I didn't realize were this far later. Huh. But yeah, no, they are... Yeah.
The fourth, and a lot of indulgences being sold to finance the Renaissance reconstruction of Rome, serving as the final nail in a solid gold coffin 5 centuries.
Though it took a century to finish St. Peter's, the rest of Europe knew what's up. Yeah.
In the making, it may be a little surprised that Martin Luther famously said, quote, "Screw this, screw the church, I'll do it myself, don't at me." Harsh words, did he?
What? I looked it up. The current Pope has a rock album. That is a thing. I was expecting a lot of crazy stuff in the past, and we got a lot of crazy stuff in the past. Crazy stuff now involving the current Pope having a rock album that is available on YouTube. I don't know if I love or hate this. I'm just sitting here going like, well, I need to go reboot my brain, so I'm going to go do that. You guys just let me know if I should even listen to that. I'm not going to do it on stream because you don't fuck with music on YouTube. And I'm just going to go see if this is all some kind of fever dream, and maybe I'm just dreaming I'm recording this right now, because the Pope has a rock album. I'm sorry, I'm stuck on this. It is going to be something I have a lot of questions about, and all of them are why? Just why, actually. No, I don't have a lot of questions. I have the one, why? Followed by, how and am I drunk? Which I will find out later by drinking more to assure myself that, yes, now I am. Because the best way to find out is to make sure you are definitely in that state regardless. Science. I mean, bad science, but technically science. Oh, God. So, yeah. We're going to check out all of what Blue has for other Pope fights, because apparently it gets crazier enough to make more. Do they top the Pope having a rock album now? I don't know. I'm going to be stuck on that for a while, though. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one when we do maybe the gangster rap from the papacy? Papacy? I don't know. Would that be a thing? I didn't think rock would be a thing. I thought that would be a joke. So maybe this isn't. If it's actually real, let me know in the comments down below, because at this point, sure. Why not? It'd be weird. But it's post-2020, guys. Anything could happen. Yeah. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.